Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Clearwater County's regular council meeting for 13th of September, 2022. I didn't want to get that date wrong. There has been an agenda circulated. I believe there is one addition to that agenda. That would be item 7.4. We would need a motion to add that to the agenda. Could I have that motion? Deputy Reeve Northcott. All those in favor? And then we would also need a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Councillor Melhoff, and all those in favor. And that's carried. Thank you very much. Also, the minutes of the last meeting of the 23rd of August have been circulated. Were there any errors, omissions, or substantial differences? Okay, thank you for that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. That brings us, I should remind everybody that all public meetings are live streamed and recorded. Any verbal or written information provided may be included in public documents as per the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, FOIP 40-1. And with that, we will be going into a public hearing. I'll call the public hearing to order at 9:01. And I'll just outline the process to be used this morning. First of all, everyone present shall register. All persons wishing to speak shall be recognized by the chair. Every presenter, when told it is their turn, shall identify themselves, their organization, if any, and whether they are in favor of or opposed to the bylaw. If a presenter becomes repetitive, they may be limited by the chair. If a presenter or member of the audience becomes disrespectful, they may be asked to leave by the chair. No outside recording devices will be permitted. We ask that cell phones be turned off or put on silent mode, and breaks within the hearing will be called at the chairman's discretion. Firstly, the development officer will explain the background of the application. Then the applicant will be invited to outline the reasons for the application. At any time, the council members have the opportunity to ask questions. Any submissions received from other agencies will then be read out. Then, anyone who is present and whom is in favor of the application will be asked to submit his or her presentation. Following this, comments will be requested from anyone who is opposed to the application. The applicant will have the last word and thus respond to any issues raised previously. Before I turn it over to staff for the background information, we will take a moment to do introductions, and I'll start. Councillor Cermak, sorry.
Yes. Reeve, could we please have a moment of silence for the Queen, please?
Well, sure, that would be. I think that would
continue on.
I think that would be appropriate. I think our world is in grief. We've had a tremendous leader that's provided stability to our country, provided stability to our world, and I think we are feeling that grief. So I think that would be appropriate. Thank you for mentioning that. So let's take a few moments of silence. Thank you all. And I guess, again, we will go to Division 1 for an introduction, please.
Good morning, Jenny Melhoff, Division 1, welcome. Good morning, Sydney Graham, Councillor for Division 2.
Good morning, Jordan Northcott, Division 4.
Good morning, Daryl Lougheed, Councillor for Division 3 in Reeve.
Good morning, Neil Ratcliffe, Division 5.
Good morning, Brian Cermak, Division 6.
Good morning, Division 7, Michelle Swanson.
Good morning, Murray Hagan, Director of Corporate Services.
Hello, Jose Reyes, Director of Planning and Development.
Good morning, Rick Emmons, Yale.
Good morning, Dustin Bisson, Planner.
Good morning, Teddy Vandermeer, applicant.
Thank you all, and I guess I will start off with Mr. Bisson to outline the background to the application, please.
Thank you, Reeve Lougheed, and good morning, Council. Edward Vandermeer currently holds title to Plan 832-2665, Block 1, Lot 1, which is part of the Southwest 37-6 west of the 5th, containing 24.32 acres. Bruce Schwecknick currently holds title to the Southwest 37-6, containing 110.95 acres. The subject land is located approximately 5 miles north of the village of Caroline along Range Road 6-1, which is the Caroline North Road. Edward Vandermeer, with the support of Bruce Schwecknick, has made application to redesignate 15.46 acres of Plan 832-2665, along with 2.5 acres of the Southwest 1337-6 from Agriculture District A to Industrial District I. The total 17.96 acre parcel to be redesignated is outlined in red and attached in your Schedule A. The applicant has also applied for the combined boundary adjustment and subdivision in conjunction with this land use amendment application. The applicant's intention is to redesignate and create separate title to the land being used in conjunction with a sawmill operation registered as Ted's Timber Limited. The existing business purchases timber and mills it into lumber of all dimensions and sizes. The applicant has an existing contracts with West Fraser, as well as a few other companies located in Calgary. Pending the outcome of the land use amendment, the landowners will proceed with a proposed boundary adjustment to consolidate the 2.5 acres of industrial land contained in the Southwest 1337-6 with Plan 832-2665. They would then subdivide off the 17.96 acre industrial designated lands within Plan 832-2665. This would leave 8.80 acres designated as agriculture, remaining as Plan 832-2665. Legal and physical access to the proposed industrial parcel and the remainder of the ag lands contained in Plan 832-2665 will be from an existing joint approach off of Township Road 37-2, adjacent to the south property boundary. Legal and physical access to the Southwest 1337-6 can be obtained from an existing approach off of Township Road 37-2 and Range Road 6-1, adjacent to the south and west property boundaries. The sawmill has operated on the subject land for approximately 40 years. Equipment, materials are currently being stored on the proposed industrial parcel, which also contains a shop as well as a small office building. The landowner's residence is located in the west central portion of the subject property. The residence will remain on the remainder of Plan 832-2665. There are 2 other agricultural parcels taken out of the Southwest 1337-6. The 2 parcels are located on the northwest and southwest of the subject lands affected by this combined land use amendment and subdivision applications. Surrounding land uses in the area are mainly agricultural, with a few gravel extraction sites surrounding this property. There's also a couple of residential parcels in the surrounding area. Therefore, this application is to rezone the subject land to an industrial parcel as shown on Schedule A of the bylaw. Planning direction, Clearwater County's MDP, Section 3.2, Part 3, land use compatibility is something we need to consider. 3.2 Section 5, encourage the diversification of the local economy. 4.2.4, in evaluating the development of proposal, agricultural land and the ag quality of the land is just one of the factors that the county shall consider. The other factors are as follows: the nature and extent of farming activities in the area, existing planned and planned non-farm land uses located in the area, impact on sustainable agriculture, farmland assessment rating of the subject property and surrounding lands, and the proposed use of the land. 8.1.2, promote locally appropriate economic development. 8.2.1, encourage the retention and expansion of existing businesses. 8.2.9, the county shall provide for a variety of commercial and industrial land uses within the county. 8.2.16, the county prefers that industrial and commercial land uses locate in business parks. However, the county may approve a proposal for isolated commercial or industrial lands outside of a business park, provided the following criteria is met. Demonstration that the isolated parcel is required, characteristics are suitable for the proposed land use, it's compatible with adjacent land uses, development can be serviced in accordance with provincial regulations, traffic generated would not adversely impact the municipal road network. 9.2.15, all developments shall meet provincial standards when it comes to water and wastewater services. 11.2.21 basically allows the county to request an area structure plan or an outline plan for major developments. 11.2.22 just gives some outlines as to what can be addressed in an ASP or outline plan. 12.2.2 deals with the implementation of an area structure plan, an outline plan. 12.2.3, the county may require the applicant to have prepared by a professional engineer any of the following studies: a geotechnical study, a TIA, a water supply study, stormwater management plan, just to name a few. 12.2.4, the county will consider the following when evaluating an application to redesignate: impact on adjoining and nearby land uses, impact on the natural capital, including agricultural land, impact on the environment, scale and density, road requirements, any county responsibilities that may result from the development or subdivision, just to name a few. Clearwater County's land use bylaw, I've included the general purpose of the industrial district. Policy considerations: the redesignation of the proposed land is to separate an existing business, Ted's Timber Limited, from the remainder of the subject property. The east portion of the subject property is currently being utilized as a milling and storage yard for materials and equipment for the business. The west central portion of the property is being used for residential purposes. Access to and from the property is via Township Road 37-2, a county-maintained gravel road adjacent to the south property boundary. The proposed use of the land is too intense to be classified under its current zoning, agriculture, and is better suited under the proposed industrial district. For first reading, at the regular council meeting held on July 12th, council reviewed and gave first reading to Bylaw 1125-22. As required by legislation, notice of today's public hearing was advertised in the local newspaper, and comments were invited from adjacent landowners and referral agencies. Upon the considerations of the representations made at the public hearing, council will consider whether or not to grant second and third reading to Bylaw 1125-22. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bisson. Would council have any questions of the development officer? Councillor Melhoff, please.
Thank you, Reeve. What is the remaining land staying zoned, or like what is it going to be zoned as?
Sure, so the remainder of Plan 832 is going to remain as agricultural.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Would there be any comments received from referral agencies?
Yes. So we did receive comments from Blue Mountain Power Co-op. They had advised that they had no objection to the land use bylaw. Public Works reviewed the application, and they had no objections to the request, and that was Public Works Infrastructure and Operations. Clearwater Regional Fire, there are several areas in the fire code that the developer will need to take into consideration. The first one being the fire department will require 2 access routes to be constructed to the property. These will need to be dedicated to the rezoned property and not be part of the existing access to the residential or agricultural property that is being separated. Number 2, fencing will be required. Number 3, a site plan will be required for the planned storage areas. And number 4, a water supply system will be required. And then finally, the Municipal Planning Commission, MPC reviewed the application on August 24th. The Municipal Planning Commission recommends that Council favorably consider granting second and third readings to the subject land use bylaw amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bisson. I guess at this time I would ask if the applicant would like to speak to the proposal and add any comments in support of their request and respond to any of the agency comments. Mr. Vandermeer?
I was just wondering with that, with the fire code stuff there. Fire department has been out there a handful of times and everything was accessible. Then what would change now that would enforce me building 2 more approaches into the property?
I believe based on their comments, they're asking for one new approach to be constructed. These were the comments based on the fire code that our deputy fire chief had submitted. To be quite honest, you'd probably be better to talk to him specifically regarding these requirements.
Okay.
Any additional comments or anything to add to your proposal?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Were there any written submissions, Mr. Bisson?
No written submissions in favor of the proposal were received.
Okay. I guess at this time I would ask if there was, and I do see no one in the gallery, but I will ask, is there any member of the public wishing to speak in favor of the application? Again, any member of the public wishing to speak in favor of the application? And seeing or hearing none, I guess I would ask at this time would there be anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Again, anyone speaking or wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, I would check with Mr. Bisson. Were there any written submissions in opposition to the application or the request?
No written submissions in opposition were received.
Okay. And I guess at this time I would ask the applicant if there was any final remarks or comments you would like to make?
No, I think I'm good, thanks.
Okay. All right, with that, I will close the hearing. No motions will be entertained at this time. And I think we'll take a 10-minute break here. Thank you very much. Welcome back, everyone. We will be skipping forward a bit on our agenda and moving to item 5.1, which is consideration of second and third readings of Bylaw 1125/22 and application number 0522 to amend the land use bylaw. And I shall turn the floor across to Mr. Bisson.
Perfect. Thank you, Reeve Lougheed. The purpose of Bylaw 1125-22 is to amend the county's land use bylaw to redesignate 15.46 acres of Plan 832-2665, Block 1, Lot 1, along with 2.5 acres of the Southwest 1337-6, west of the 5th, from Agriculture District A to Industrial District I. Pending the outcome of the land use amendment, the landowners will proceed with a proposed boundary adjustment to consolidate the 2.5 acres of industrial land contained in the Southwest 13 with Plan 832-2665. They would then subdivide off the 17.96 acre industrial designated lands within Plan 832-2665. This would leave 8.80 acres designated as agriculture, remaining as Plan 832-2665. Please refer to the documents attached as Agenda Item 3.1 for further details on the application. At the regular council meeting held on July 12th, council reviewed and gave first reading to Bylaw 1125. As required by legislation, notice of today's public hearing was advertised in the local newspapers, and comments were invited from adjacent landowners and referral agencies. Upon the considerations of the representations made at the public hearing, council will consider whether or not to grant second and third reading to Bylaw 1125-22. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions by council? Any questions at all? Councillor Melhoff.
Thank you, Reeve. I honestly believe that switching this from ag to industrial just fits what is happening with that particular chunk of land. It's been a sawmill now for 40 years. It makes sense to change this over to industrial. My concern is Plan 832-2665, Block 1, Lot 1. It will be staying zoned agricultural and is not being farmed whatsoever. And in my opinion, should be residential use, not agriculture. I don't know if there's a way that we can do that, or if that fits in the MDP. It does not make sense to me why that would stay zoned ag when no ag is taking place.
Good morning, Council.
Mr. Riaz?
Yes, just to address a question somehow. Yes, that's possible, but that will be a separate application. And Council has the authority or the power to redesignate land without even getting an application in front of them. So you can initiate the application, but that will be a separate process. We can deal with this later, but right now we're just dealing with that particular piece of land. But that will be in favor or pretty much in conjunction with the municipal development plan.
Supplemental, please.
Thank you, Reeve. My understanding was it could not be zoned ag because it could not be zoned CR because it's too big of a parcel to fit within the municipal development plan. So my thought process was, if that's the case, then we should be potentially looking at increasing the size of this industrial lot to make the CR, or what will hopefully become CR, smaller so it fits in the MDP, because that should not be staying ag. It's not being farmed. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yes, Councillor, and I agree with you. Right now, we haven't defined in the municipal development plan process the actual size of CRs or any other subdivisions. So maybe later we can determine like a specific size for a new subdivided parcel, if that makes any sense to you.
Additional question?
Yes, please. I thought that our municipal development plan did have specific acreage sizes for CR, CRA, and A. I thought that was already predetermined.
Yes, but we haven't finished that process yet, like the municipal development plan, so
But we have one that's active now, so we would be having to use that one, correct?
I don't, go ahead.
Mr. Bisson?
Yes, so we would have to follow the current land use bylaw for sizes. However, council does have the authority to vary, to vary the land use bylaw. So
Okay,
that is something that could be done.
that we can look at. Perfect, thank you so much. Sorry for the tangent.
Okay, thank you for that. And I guess in my perspective, all our land defaults to ag, whether it has actual agricultural potential or not, whether it's a rock, tree, stream, whatever, it does default to agricultural use, so I hear what you're saying, though. Would anybody be willing to make a motion at this point of time? Councillor Melhoff? You're
That's
late?
exactly what I was gonna do was, but it sounds like Councillor Cermak would like to do so, so I'll leave it to
So
you.
I will allow Councillor Cermak to make a motion.
I would like to make a motion for the second and third reading.
Second reading first, if that would be appropriate. Okay, we have a motion then for second reading of the bylaw. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. That takes us to third reading. Would anybody be willing to make that motion? Councillor Melhoff? Further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Would we be prepared to go to item 5.4, the electric vehicle, or do we want to go to the CAO report? Let's go to the CAO report then, item 6.1. Thank you. Hate to put you on the spot, Mr. Emmons, but we want to utilize everybody's time here. We have some hard points on our agenda today. We need to be, we need to hit those time frames. So I appreciate you being able to give your report on a drop of a hat here. So.
My pleasure, Reeve Laid. So the CAO report for September 13th, 2022. This year, the 2022 Alberta Municipalities Convention, formerly known as the AUMA, is being held at Calgary TELUS Convention Centre from September 21 to the 23rd, with the pre-convention sessions taking place on September 20th. As per Council's conferences and training for councillors' policy, one councillor is authorized to attend. Should another councillor wish to attend, a motion is authorized at this time. So perhaps, Reeve Lahid, the question could go out to council if there's any other interest to entertain a possible motion.
Sure, would there be any expressions of interest amongst council to attend that convention? I'm seeing people getting close. Councillor Swanson, perhaps?
I would defer to the new councillors if they want, but I would like to attend if none are available.
Okay. Any other expressions of interest? Councillor Melhoff.
I would be comfortable making the motion in allowing councillors that are interested in attending to attend.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Further discussion? In that case, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Go ahead, Mr. Emmons.
Thank you, Reeve Lahid. Clearwater County's Public Engagement Review Survey, posted on the county's website for the past 6 weeks, is ending September 19th. The survey results will be used to determine improvements needed to increase public participation, develop better engagement strategies, and create communication policies and processes. Survey results, what we've heard, report will be posted on the website in early 2023. The David Thompson Health Advisory Council is currently recruiting new volunteer members within the Central Zone to join the healthcare conversation. They're seeking representatives from David Thompson area who want to be part of the healthcare conversation and engage with Alberta Health Services on health care topics, are appreciative of diverse points of view, are connected to members of their community, can attend 3 scheduled meetings, in person or virtually, and 1 engagement event in person or virtually per year. For more information, visit the David Thompson Health Advisory Council website and review the David Thompson Annual Report. Those interested can apply online or complete the expression of interest form and submit directly via email to community.engagement@ahs.ca. The Minister of Alberta Justice and Solicitor General is inviting municipal leaders to participate in an engagement opportunity regarding Alberta's ongoing consideration of reestablishing a provincial police service. Each meeting will be an opportunity for focused dialogue between municipal leaders and the Minister on the topic of provincial policing, as well as any other justice and public safety topic important to municipal leaders.
Mr. Emmons, maybe I'll interrupt you just for a second. Councillor Melhoff has a question.
Thank you, Reeve. This was regarding number 3. I just was going to ask for this council's endorsement in applying to sit on the Health Advisory Council for Central Zone. Is that a yes?
Question, comments? Councillor Swanson, please.
Yes, as you sit on the, our local advisory team, I would be happy to make the motion to put forth your application for the member at large on the David Thompson Health Advisory Council.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, all those in favor? And that's carried, thank you. Are you opposed?
No, I just didn't think I was allowed to.
Okay.
Because it was involving you directly.
That's carried anyways.
Thank you.
I think you probably do. I think you probably do have to vote. I don't think you can. Yeah. Okay. Great. We've settled that then. Great. Thank you very much for that. And I'll let Mr. Emmons continue, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Reeve. So the dates and locations are listed here. September 13th in Edmonton and the 14th, the 16th in Grand Prairie, the 19th in Cold Lake, the 27th in Lethbridge, 28th in Calgary, as well as the 29th. There are 6 meetings time slots per day, from 9 to 9:50 in the morning, 10 to 10:50, 11 to 11:50, 1 to 1:50, 2 to 2:50, and 3 to 3:50. Additional information on the topic of provincial policing is available at the listed websites or email. Clearwater County's application for disaster recovery assistance following the flooding due to the rainfall event that started on June 15th of 2022 is currently under review by Alberta Emergency Management Agency. Please note that effective April 1st, 2021, the Government of Alberta implemented changes to the program that will affect the financial assistance municipalities may receive if approved under the disaster relief program. Currently, the province provides assistance for 90% of eligible disaster expenses. For additional information, please go to the attached website.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmons. Additional questions for the CAO. Councillor Melhoff, please.
Thank you, Reeve. With regards to the disaster recovery program, we obviously have a restricted fund to help with disaster recovery within our community. With these changes, is that fund well funded to help with disaster relief within the municipality, or do we need to reevaluate?
We have a nominal amount identified in Public Works for miscellaneous maintenance issues that can be utilized. If it exceeds that, then we do carry reserves that we would come back to council and ask for access to those funds if required.
Supplemental, please.
Thank you. Do we need to look at the way that restricted fund is funded? Is it funded enough to fulfill the requirements of a large-scale disaster within our municipality, or do we need to take a look at it?
From my experience, Councilor Melham, I believe it's funded adequately. We've seen disasters in Clearwater County that run into the multi-millions, and that is why there's assistance from provincial and federal governments. It exceeds the expectation and capacity of most municipalities to plan for those events. Could potentially tie up tax dollars for a long period of time. I believe we walk a responsible line of carrying reserves that would protect our ratepayers without over-exceeding.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Hagan?
Thank you, Reeve Lougheed. Good morning, council. Just to supplement the CAO's explanation, just wanted to inform council that based on the 2021 financial statements, the county was holding $2 million in that restricted surplus account.
Thank you for that. Councillor Cermak, please.
Did we exceed on this flood of June 15th, did we exceed what we've got in our fund to cover this? Because I think there was quite a bit of damage done and a lot of money was spent. Do we still have enough in the reserve to keep viable if something else happens?
Mr. Emmons?
Thank you. Councillor Cermak, all tallies haven't been brought in yet. I know James River was running right around 800,000 itself. I believe we are covered under our reserves. We are adequate. At this time of year, typically we don't see additional disasters. We're outside of fire season. Flood should be behind us. I believe we are comfortable at this time. But if that should change, we will definitely bring it forward to council. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any additional questions for the CAO report? If not, I would be looking for a motion to accept the CAO report for information. Councillor Swanson was first. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. I think that puts us in time for our next public hearing. And I shall call the public hearing to order at 9:45. So I'll just outline the process to be used. Everyone present shall register. All persons wishing to speak shall be recognized by the chair. Every presenter, when told it is their turn, shall identify themselves, their organization, if any, and whether they are in favor of or opposed to the bylaw. If a presenter becomes repetitive, they may be limited by the chair. No outside recording devices will be permitted, and breaks within the hearing will be called at the chairman's discretion. Firstly, the development officer will outline the background of the application. Then the applicant will be invited to outline the reasons for the application. At any time, the council members have the opportunity to ask questions. Any submissions received from other agencies will then be read out. Then anyone who is present and whom is in favor of the application will be asked to submit his or her presentation. Following this, comments will be requested from anyone who is opposed to the application. The applicant will have the last word and thus respond to any issues raised previously. Before I turn it over to staff for the background report, we will take a moment to do some introductions, and I'll start with Division 1 again.
Thank you, Reeve. Jenny Melhoff, Councillor for Division 1. Welcome.
Hello, Sydney Graham, Councillor for Division 2.
Good morning, Jordan Northcott, Division 4.
Good morning and welcome. Daryl Lougheed, Councillor for Division 3 and Reeve.
Good morning, Neil Ratcliffe, Division 5.
Good morning. Division 6, Brian Cermak.
Hello again, Michelle Swanson, Division 7.
Good morning, Murray Hagan, Director of Corporate Services.
Hello, Jose Reyes, Director of Planning and Development.
Good morning, Rick Emmons, CAO.
Good morning, Charmin Pacholka, Development Officer.
Good morning, Council and members. Frank McBride,
and my wife Robin.
And I'm Robin McBride.
Well, welcome. I shall start off by asking Charmin Picholka to outline the background to the application.
Thank you. Good morning. Before you is Bylaw 112622, relevant to application 0822, to amend the land use bylaw in order to redesignate approximately 50 acres within northwest of 24, 38 of 4, west of the 5th, from the agriculture district to the intensive agriculture district. The applicants, Frank and Robin McBride, would like to subdivide the redesignated 50 acres from their 153.64 acre quarter section to develop and operate a greenhouse and tree farm. The intention is to utilize the land to its full potential. The applicants have formed a partnership with horticulturalist Cynthia Booth, who previously and currently owns and operates a market garden and fruit orchard, among other related businesses. The sales plan, solidified through the partnership, will be to distribute plants and trees to Glass Earth Inc., located in Edmonton, and West Coast Jungle, located in Vancouver, in addition to local community markets. Other potential ventures are currently being investigated. The applicants are planning to utilize a full eco-farming model, including livestock, pigs, sheep, goats, cattle, and chickens, who will consume waste product from vegetation. The natural fertilizer created will then be used in the soils. Livestock will also be used as a food source by the landowners. The application has been evaluated against policies and regulations from the Municipal Development Plan, Land Use Bylaw, and Municipal Government Act. The redesignation of the subject land would allow the subdivision of the 50 acres from the quarter section. The land will be used to operate an intensive agriculture business. The proposal would allow the landowners to utilize a smaller parcel of land more conducive to their business needs. The proposed business will be a diverse plan that supports the local economy and utilizes existing farmland in a positive manner, while not posing a large impact on adjacent lands and landowners. Planning staff considers this application to meet Clearwater County's policies. To support a complete community, diverse business uses are needed throughout Clearwater County. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Again, any questions for the development officer? Deputy Reeve Northcott, please.
Thank you, Reeve. Good morning, everybody. In the future on this application, if this was to get approved, to go from intensive ag, gets rezoned, in the future, would this be able to rezoned back to just agricultural zoning and then be a, in the future, just be a 50-acre acreage?
An application could come before council, should an applicant wish to, and then it would then go through this entire process again.
Okay, yeah, I've seen a few in the past where they'll be zoned maybe intensive or light industrial, I guess, and then they get rezoned back to agricultural.
Yeah, we entertain any applications that come forward, we don't turn them away, and then it's at the discretion of council where they would wish to go with that.
Excellent, thank you.
Any additional questions for the development officer? Seeing no questions, would there be any comments received from referral agencies?
Yes, so a referral was received from Lacombe County. Lacombe County has no objections with the proposed amendment for the redesignation of 50 acres of Northwest 24, 38 of 4, west of the 5th, from the Agriculture District to the Intensive Agriculture District. In addition, Clearwater County Public Works Operation has no concerns with this redesignation. And then one from Clearwater County's Public Works Infrastructure. Infrastructure has no objections to the request. A 5.18 meter, 17-foot road widening caveat shall be taken along the west and north boundary of the property if not already in place. And that would come into play after the redesignation as part of the subdivision application. process. It would be listed as a condition. Municipal Planning Commission reviewed the application on August 26th, 2022, and MPC recommended that council favorably consider granting second and third readings to the subject land use bylaw amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask if the applicants would wish to speak to their proposal or to add any comments in support of their request or to respond to any questions.
I guess, excuse me, first, is there any questions as it is right now?
Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Reeve. I'm just curious how long it's going to take you to build up this business. Like, if you're going to be selling trees, it takes a few years to get them ready. I'm just wondering at what point you consider this undertaking to be sustainable.
We actually have, so there's a, what are they called up north? Where was that nursery? Where there's trees. Anyway, they're very, very knowledgeable on exactly which, what is it?
Prairie Garden.
Prairie Garden, sorry. So they're just north of Edmonton, but they actually supply like lots of different trees and seedlings and stuff. And they're very knowledgeable on exactly what would work for various soil conditions and climate conditions, and they know exactly what would go good. So we can actually access our trees from there, the seedlings to plant, and we can get them at various sizes. So it depends on which size we plant as to how soon production of those might be ready to go. So if you get a 6-foot tree and you want to sell it, you know, as an 8-foot tree, then it would probably be maybe a year and a half or 2 years, depending on, of course, the growing season, what the weather does, and so forth. So, so our plan is to get some of this stuff going as soon as feasibly possible, depending upon what is being planted and what is being grown. So orchard trees, you plant them, you don't expect to harvest that next year. You shouldn't, you shouldn't, because it's not healthy for the tree. So you need to wait for at least 2 years before you do an actual fruit harvest. So the greenhouse right away.
Having said that, we did pick some trees up from Prairie Garden this spring for some acquaintances of ours, and they are actually producing fruit this year.
But this year has been a really good production year.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
And Deputy Reeve Northcott.
Would you be able to continue with this business venture without rezoning the land to, like, for intensive agriculture, just, with trees and stuff like that, there's forests and stuff in Clearwater County, but I'm just wondering for what makes it intensive, and would you be able to continue with the business opportunity that you'd like to continue with there, or in the future without rezoning?
No, because there's more tied into it than that, than just what we are trying to accomplish with the rezoning. We have people who are interested in the remainder of the land, and with the sale of that gives us some of the needed capital, and it clears the table of all debt for us, which makes it possible to move it forward. So there's more things in play than just the greenhouse and redesignation. It's all tied together.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional comments?
I guess this almost segues into what Councillor Northcott's question is. This just provides us an opportunity at this stage of our lives, right, to move forward and with a new venture, and it's exciting, and it's I think it's society needs some of this diversity happening a little bit more. Again, where we go back to some of the healthier eating, if you will, and healthier lifestyle, and it provides us an opportunity to continue to stay where we have lived for the last 35 years. And as a couple, and also to continue the land that has been in the family, the McBride family, for a number of years. That's just the way that the life has happened, but it affords us a new opportunity moving forward, and we are excited to do so.
And a sustainable one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask if there are any comments from a member of the public wishing to speak in favor of the application. Sorry, Deputy Reeve, you had another question, sorry.
Very much. It was just in regards to the first parcel that was subdivided off the property, off that quarter section. I was just curious of when, was that parcel subdivided prior to you guys buying the quarter, or roughly when was that subdivided off of the quarter?
No, we owned the property at that time.
Okay.
I want to say early 2000s.
Okay. Thank you.
The subdivision was done in 2012. It was registered.
12.
So again, I'm inviting any comments from any member of the public wishing to speak in favor of the application. Again, comments from any member of the public wishing to speak in favor of the application. And seeing none, I shall ask if the development officer had any written submissions in favor of the request.
One email was received in favor of the proposal. It was received on August 30th from Terry Saffron. Attention Charmin Picholka, thank you for your letter. I am in favor of the redesignation of 50 acres of Northwest 24, 38-4 west of the 5th. My only concern is the property is located directly between two longtime airports, being Hespero CFB 3 and Hespero Saffron residence, CTS 6. These airports are Transport Canada registered and are frequently utilized by various aircraft and people. As long as the people on the proposed redesignated properties understand there is aircraft utilization and aircrafts make some noise, I have no concerns. As a pilot, we intend to keep the noise down, but also have to meet Transport Canada regulations. Thanks, Terry Saffron.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I would ask if there was anyone opposed to the application, wishing to speak to the public hearing. Again, anyone opposed to the application? Seeing no one, I will check with the development officer if there were any written submissions opposing the request.
No written submissions of opposition. The proposal were received.
Thank you very much. Would the applicants like any closing remarks?
I guess just to tie in with Terry Saffron's letter of approval is just, those airports have been there for a long time. So, we're well aware of them. So it's not like it's a new development or even that the airports were there 5 years ago. They've been there for a long, long time. So it's just part of life. That is what it is. So, but we just, we're just very excited about our moving forward.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. With that, we'll close the hearing. No motions will be entertained at this time. And having said that, we skip forward in our agenda, and we will be going to item 5.2, I believe, which is consideration of second and third readings for bylaw 112622 for application number 08/22 to amend the land use bylaw. And again, I shall have Ms. Picholka introduce the item, please.
Thank you again, Reeve and Council. The purpose of Bylaw 112622, relevant to application 0822, is to amend the land use bylaw in order to redesignate 50 acres within Northwest 24, 38-4, west of the 5th, from the agriculture district to the intensive agriculture district. As previously presented, the proposed land use bylaw amendment would allow the applicants to remain living in their existing residence and utilize existing buildings and infrastructure within a smaller, more manageable parcel of intensive agricultural land. The redesignated 50-acre parcel would be subdivided and further developed to operate a greenhouse and tree farm business. Please refer to the report and documents attached to the September 13th, 2022 public hearing council agenda item for further details regarding this application. At the regular council meeting held on July 26th, council reviewed and gave first reading to Bylaw 112622. As required by the legislation, notice of today's public hearing was advertised in the local newspaper, and comments were invited from adjacent landowners and referral agencies. Upon consideration of the representations made at the public hearing, council will consider whether or not to grant second and third reading to Bylaw 112622. Thank you.
And thank you. So the staff recommendation, of course, is to consider second and third readings here. Additional questions, comments? Councillor Melhoff, please.
Thank you, Reeve. Do we have any other comparables in the community in which this type of zoning has taken place?
Yes, so I went through the history and there have been 5 other rezonings to the intensive ag in this regard to pursue ventures either existing or proposed. And there was one specifically for a greenhouse as well, greenhouse tree operation. Yeah.
Additional comments, questions? Councillor Swanson, please.
I like the new venture. I like the fact that this is going to serve a different purpose to a different niche market, I guess, to a different customer. And anytime that we can watch and support new ventures, I think that's a great opportunity. So I am prepared to grant second reading if there's no further discussion.
Speaking to that motion, Councillor or Deputy Reeve Northcott, please.
On those, I don't know if you'd have the information available, but on those previous, those other 5 applications that were intensive ag, when roughly were those approved?
It's been within the last probably 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I would have to pull exact dates,
Yeah.
but approximately.
yeah, because in my time, I can't quite recall I don't know if there was 5 that crossed the table since I've been sitting here, but anyways.
Yeah.
I do have a couple other questions. And these might be just for the applicant. I know in Clearwater County, there is the freedom to be able to have rural businesses really without having to subdivide. But I was just wondering if there was any consideration to allow for the consideration for the sale of the remaining 153 acres with the condition that you'd be able to still live and be able to utilize the 50 acres until sometime into the future, allowing that would leave the still one parcel there and allow funding to go on with your business venture without having to actually subdivide.
We have explored that with the interested party. That substantially changes things in a number of ways for both them and ourselves in how we can move forward and some of the restrictions. And this was the best avenue to address all of the concerns and needs of everybody involved.
Okay. For maybe just one more question. For tax implications, has there been any considerations for tax implications? did a little bit of research on it. The first parcel out, a lot of times can be only 50% taxable income. Your second, third, maybe fourth parcels out are now maybe considered 100% taxable income, because now you're sort of in the business of selling land. That's a little bit of stuff that I'd learned through some of the research that I'd done just over the last few days, but it could have tax implications on the subdivision that you're proposing there. And I was just wondering if you had considered that as well.
We have, and we've talked with our accountant, and from everything that he has told us, there shouldn't be any tax implications for us.
Okay.
And I'm going to take a question from Councillor
Absolutely.
Melhoff, and then I shall come back
Absolutely.
if you have an additional question relating to the motion before us as well. Councillor Melhoff?
Thank you, Reeve. Yes, I agree with Councillor Swanson that I really like the thought of diversity in agriculture. I am looking at it from the benefit to our community. I really don't think that it is for me to say how you are going to be utilizing any form of income or tax implications whatsoever. It's not my place as a councillor to do so. It is my place to determine whether this particular development will be good for my community. And I feel that this will be. I particularly enjoy all the information we've learned in your application regarding super soils. I'm excited about what you plan on doing with all the recycling from, I believe it was Eckville, if I'm remembering correctly. That is fabulous, and I'm hoping to be able to watch your business grow and come and visit it in the future for some wonderful fruit. And I will be supporting second reading. Thank you.
And Councillor Graham, please.
Thank you, Reeve Wahid. I think Councillor Melhoff summed up what I was going to say fairly well. I think the diversification is going to be great. It's not going to affect anyone surrounding you guys. If anything, it's going to make the county more beautiful and more appealing, in my opinion. And it's not my business, but it'd be really cool if when you guys are even more professionals of tree growing, if you had some classes on us non-green thumbs of how to grow trees. I will be voting in favor as well.
And I would just comment at this time as well, too, that I've reviewed your application. I'm impressed by your excitement for this endeavor. And I think it's exactly what that designation indicates. I think that was the intent and purpose behind the intensive agriculture district, was to create these kind of opportunities there. So thank you for that. I'll go to Councillor Ratcliffe and then back to Deputy Reeve Northcott.
Thank you, Reeve. Not sure why I pushed my button, because other councillors have said my thoughts very well already. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, but I wish you well in achieving your goals with this. I think it'll be a great addition to the county and the community, and I will support second reading.
And I'll go back to Deputy Reeve Northcott, please.
I do support your business venture there. However, I think it could still proceed without having to actually subdivide. I think this will set a precedent to really allowing an unlimited number of parcels and parcel sizes throughout the county, just by rezoning and then subdividing, and then in the future you can rezone it back to agriculture and really have an unlimited size and number of parcels per quarter of land just through rezoning. So I definitely support your venture. I think that's great and stuff like that, but within Clearwater County there is freedom to be able to have rural businesses and stuff like that without having to subdivide. But that's my comments. Thanks.
Okay. And I know, Councillor Cermak, your light was on and off. I will give you an opportunity because you haven't spoken to this yet, so.
I only have one comment that I agree with the second reading, but this is exactly what our county needs. New businesses willing to come into our county and do a new business and start up, and we should welcome businesses from outside our county. We just happen to have residents that want to do it inside of our county. We want to be open to new businesses coming in. I think any way that we can help is nothing but a benefit to the county. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm going, one last time, I'll go to Deputy Reeve Northcott, please.
Absolutely, and thank you again, Reeve. I think this might be my last question. I do have just a little bit of a concern, I guess, in the future, because that will now be a 50-acre parcel, and in the future it could be rezoned again to another designation. And I also think about the surrounding neighbors and residents and the impact in the future. If that parcel is to be sold in the future, and then another party was to buy that property and then rezone it to another use, the impact that it could have on surrounding residents and landowners. So, thank you, and I think that might be my last question.
Okay, thank you for that, and I think that's why there are those safeguards within our development policies that allow revisiting these things sometime in the future, but of course it goes through the same process as we're going through today with a public hearing and the ability of the public to give their comments and feedback as well. Councillor Melhoff, your light, I may have missed it.
That's
but
absolutely fine, thank you, Reeve. I was just gonna comment on Deputy Reeve Northcott's comment regarding the future. I'm putting my faith in the council of the time to do what is right and what will benefit our community at the time. Currently, I feel that this is a strong benefit to us, and the council in the future, I'm sure will either see that it needs to continue to stay intensive ag as it is being used for that purpose, or determine what is best for the county at that time. And I'm putting my faith into that council that will be sitting at this table looking at that rezoning at that time.
Okay, thank you. The motion that's before us is to grant second reading. I will be calling that question. All those in favor? And those opposed? That is carried. Would anybody be willing to make a motion for third reading? Councillor Graham, discussion as per third reading. Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? And those opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. With that, we will take a break and we'll be back at, we do have, maybe we'll trudge ahead and do 5.4. We have the necessary people available to assist us with that agenda item. So 5.4 on your agenda is the electric vehicle charging station in Nordegg. And I would welcome Mr. Pratt to introduce that item.
Good morning, Council. At the previous council meeting, I presented a proposal from eVenture Northwest Alberta about providing grant funds for the installation of 2 electric vehicle charging stations in Nordegg, and council asked for a little bit further information, so I reached out to eVenture Northwest Alberta to get that. A quick summary of this project, this grant. eVenture Northwest Alberta provides grants to install public access EV charging stations in communities where the service does not currently exist. They're looking to install 2 chargers in Nordegg. They see this as extension of a network. They're hoping to be in the mid-20s across northwestern Alberta. The grant requires the county to provide 2 parking spots, cost-free for a 10-year lease. The county also ensures access to the electricity needed and maintains the parking area by clearing snow and picking up litter. Connecting the electricity to this location would cost approximately $20,000. And administration has selected the parking lot at the Nordegg Discovery Center, partially because it is a common parking lot. It is between the new Main Street, which doesn't have any development yet, and the existing development, which is down near the Miners Cafe and so on. And it has parking available. A private electricity provider would be chosen through an RFP process, which is done by eVenture, and the private provider would take ownership of the charging equipment and then provide electricity at a fee for the users. The additional information the council was asking for, there's a question about liability, what there would be as liability for the county. Really, when I reached out to eVenture, they said this is part of the lease agreement. And it would be like any other standard property lease for liability. And And that would be with the electricity provider specifically. There's no oil or gas involved in this, so land contamination would not be a concern. Does this subsidize private business? So eVenture's response to this was that they provide grants to install charging stations as an incentive to bring a service to a community where it does not currently exist. The private electricity provider would take ownership of the equipment, and the grant pays for that equipment. The county would still own the land and the electricity line itself. For Nordegg, having this service removes an obstacle to visiting the area that we have heard from potential visitors and travelers, especially as Nordegg is actually the last location along David Thompson Highway that you can get electricity. Because electricity at David Thompson Resort and also at the crossing, those are generated through diesel generators. They're not able to do the phase 3 power that is needed. So Nordegg's sort of the last trek going out there. And there was also a question about vandalism, because we have seen vandalism occur, in particularly in Rocky Mountain House at the PV Mart charging station. That would be negotiated part of the lease agreement, but really if it is their equipment, they cover reparations for that. And that's the information that was provided to me by eVentures regarding this. The allocation of the request for $20,000 that would bring the electricity directly to the site would be part of the 2023 budget.
Questions? Councillor Melhoff.
Thank you, Reeve. They said they're gonna do a tender process for provider. It's my understanding there is only one provider, so Nordegg doesn't have multiple providers. There's only one provider, so then if this equipment becomes theirs, are we then in turn subsidizing a private business?
I'm not sure of their RFP process. They deal with all electricity providers across the province. As the question of subsidizing, eVentures called it incentivizing a service that doesn't exist currently. Those were their words.
Okay, thank you.
So basically choosing to have the service or not.
Councillor Swanson, please.
Well, I do believe that we need some sort of an EV station in Nordegg. It's part of that loop that attracts the tourism during the summer, and it's a needed requirement. And I don't know, I was told by another resident that there was Parkland that does the EV stations as well. So, but quite obviously, eVenture is the one that has come to the table and is willing to do this. So, as new as it is, and even on a 10-year, we know how over time technology can change very, very quickly. So even through the car manufacturing, et cetera. So if this goes to a private, they would be in charge of changing the electronics or whatever else through whatever the technology changes through the automation of, or through auto making, such as Mr. Elon Musk's car, Tesla. So I'm okay with going forward, because if we don't go forward, to me, we're taking a couple steps backward. I think we can keep an eye on this. I would ask for data as far as how many users, that kind of thing, are using it, and maybe that could be through their RFP process, whoever their private provider becomes. We can develop that relationship. I think that's important going forward. So I'm okay with going ahead.
Thank you. Deputy Reeve.
Thank you, Reeve. Lougheed, with the development stuff that's currently going on in Nordegg, 10-year lease, is there any possibility that really could restrict to give, to really put a 10-year lease on a piece of property there? Would that have any future impact or restrict any maybe development that might need to be happening in that area? And I'm just wondering, 10 years is quite a while. I just wondered why it has to be 10 years.
Our discussion with Public Works, they did not have any issues with this.
Okay, thank you.
To that, we double check, maybe just to add to that, Councillor, we double check also the the development plan for Nordec, and it seems to be in compatibility with that plan, this project.
And I'll go to Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Eve Wahid. I really like the idea of this. I see the benefit that it would have being in Nordeg, and I really want to be in favor of it, but I just can't be. I feel that we're using our taxpayers' dollars to subsidize this company, and maybe eVentures should go to the electricity provider that is in the area. And if they're going to be the ones benefiting off of this, I feel that they should be paying the $20,000 to put the system in. So where I'm sitting currently, I'm not in favor of this.
Councillor Ratcliffe and then Councillor Cermak.
Thank you, Reeve. My understanding, I just want to check my understanding of what we're actually doing here is that we're not really subsidizing anyone, but we are facilitating the connection between the grid and the electric vehicles.
That is correct. The location is chosen in part because it's as close to the electrical line as we can get and still have the parking spots. And so the infrastructure that is installed is our infrastructure. The electrical line will be ours. So that's something that we can do with in the future if we want.
Yes. But the actual charging station, will that be ours as well?
No, the grant that is provided by eVenture, Northwest Alberta, that pays for the two charging stations and the electrical pad and the installation of the actual station itself.
And so we're just providing the connection, so we're not really subsidizing anyone.
Well, the $20,000 is to bring electricity to the site itself.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that looking at the future production of electric vehicles and the rate that they're coming on the market, I think this is essential for the area, and I'm in favor of moving ahead. Thank you.
Councillor Cermak?
Yes, thank you, Reeve. I have 3 questions. What happens after the free 10-year lease? Is a cap at 20,000? It's not going to go over that. And third thing is my liability is electric shock. I mean, you're dealing with electricity at 3-phase power. Is there any chance that somebody could get electrocuted or anything like that? And are we liable for that, or is the company liable?
Well, I'll start with the liability question. My understanding is that that is covered through the insurance of the electricity provider and would be a part of our lease agreement.
Okay.
And then what happens after the 10 years is we would either renegotiate that lease, that spot, or if we want to continue with them, choose a different location, if that's the choice as well. Because by that point, Nordeg will look considerably different, and we may have a different idea on where it should go.
Okay. And the 20,000, that is the cap, that's all that the county.
That is the estimate that Public Works has given on what the connection would cost.
So that's a plus or minus 25%.
I was told the 20,000 will cover it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my comment would be this is one of the costs with putting Nordeg on the map. I think it brings a whole other group of people to an opportunity to discover our beautiful backcountry. It's something we've been trying to promote as tourism, certainly promoting Nordeg as being a destination place. So I would be supportive if one was to make a motion to approve this lease. Anyway, that's my comment. Councillor Melhoff, please.
Thank you, Reeve. Initially, I was with Councillor Graham on this. However, your explanation to Councillor Ratcliffe of we aren't actually subsidizing them at all. If anything, eVentures is subsidizing that. We are doing the in-ground infrastructure similar to what any developer would have done for the same site, and we own that site, so this seems like an infrastructure upgrade of our own facility, and then E-Ventures is working with the provider, not us. If anything, they're the ones doing that. If there ends up being some type of a issue, we still own what the 20,000 that we've done being the actual power, which is what we are installing. So thank you for the explanation to Councillor Ratcliffe. And I would be willing to make the motion that we go forward with installing the power into the site here. The council approves the 10-year lease of 2 parking spots at the Discovery Centre at no cost for the installation and use of 2 electrical vehicle charging stations.
Thank you for that. Deputy Reeve Northcott, as per that motion.
Alrighty, thank you very much. Is there the value of this charging station that's going to be provided by E-Ventures? Do you have an idea of what the charging station is valued at? Or?
My understanding that it depends on the station, but traditionally the 2 stations would probably together cost about $120,000.
Okay.
Depending on whether it is the fast charger. What they've done in most other communities is 1 fast charger and 1 regular level 2 charger. But that will be figured out with the analysis of the electricity.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions? I'm ready to call the question. All those in favor? And those opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. We do have a hard appointment here at 10:30. Let's take a 5-minute break and be back at 10:32. Welcome back, everyone. We're going back to agenda item 4.3, I believe. So that is a public hearing. I should call the hearing to order at 9:30 or 10:35, sorry. I shall just outline the process that we shall use here today. Everyone present shall register. All persons wishing to speak shall be recognized by the chair. Every presenter, when told it is their turn, shall identify themselves and their organization, if any, and whether they are in favor of or opposed to the bylaw. If a presenter becomes repetitive, they may be limited by the chair. No outside recording devices will be permitted, and breaks within the hearing will be called at the chairman's discretion. Firstly, the development officer will explain the background of the application. Then the applicant will be invited to outline the reasons for the application. At any time, council members have an opportunity to ask questions. Any submissions received from other agencies will then be read out. Then anyone who is present and whom is in favor of the application will be asked to submit his or her presentation. Following this, comments will be requested from anyone who is opposed to the application. The applicant will have the last word and thus respond to any issues raised previously. Before I turn it over to staff for the background report, I will take a moment to do introductions. And again, I'll go to Division 1.
Thank you, Reeve. Welcome back. Jenny Melhoff, Councillor for Division 1.
Hello, Sydney Graham, Councillor for Division 2.
Good morning, Jordan Northcott, Division 4, Councillor.
Good morning and welcome, Darrell Lougheed, Councillor for Division 3 and Reeve.
Good morning, Neil Ratcliffe, Division 5.
Brian Cermak, Division 6, good morning.
Hello again, Division 7, Michelle Swanson.
Good morning, Murray Hagan, Director of Corporate Services.
Hello, Jose Reyes, Director of Planning and Development.
Good morning, Rick Emmons, CAO.
Morning, Holly Bealey, Development Officer. You guys can introduce yourself.
That would be perfect, yes.
I'm Julie Hinch.
And I'm George Hench.
Well, welcome. I'm going to start off by asking Holly to outline the background information for the application.
Sure. George and Julie recently purchased a lot within Leslieville. It's legally described as Plan 2654CL Lot A, and it contains 4.99 acres. The proposal is to redesignate the land from the Manufactured Home Park District to the Hamlet Residential District. The subject land is located in the south central portion of Leslieville, and it's bordered to the north by 3rd Avenue, the east by Secondary Highway 761 and the Bethel Church Lot, and to the south-southwest by Lobstick Creek. Currently, this lot is being utilized as a single-family residential site. Topography plays a substantial role in the development of this land. It is an irregular-shaped parcel with a lower bench where Lobstick Creek is located. This lower bench is undevelopable, flood-prone land. Erosion of the banks is also an ongoing issue for this land. So just to give you a little bit of background, in 1979, the province redesignated 7 acres of Hamlet residential land to the Manufactured Home Park District. In 91, the Red Deer Regional Planning Commission approved the creation of a 1.3 acre institutional parcel out of the same parcel of land. The redesignated land was in the northeast corner of the 7 acre parcel and is where the Bethel Church is currently located. When this institutional parcel was created, the prime developable land for the manufactured home park was utilized, leaving approximately an acre left for future manufactured home park development. An additional redesignation subdivision occurred in 2008. It was granted by the Municipal Planning Commission, and it was to consolidate an additional acre of land along the east boundary, utilizing the remaining high manufactured home park land. Staff have since recommended the redesignation of the remaining land back to Hamlet Residential, as any future development of this land must comply with the current manufactured home park zoning and would have to address the challenges of sufficient space, which would likely not be achieved. Legal and physical access to the proposal will not change, and it will continue to utilize the approved approach off Third Avenue, adjacent to the north boundary. Leslieville is serviced with communal wastewater, and the subject land complies and ties into this utility line. Surrounding land uses are Hamlet residential, Hamlet commercial, country residential agricultural, and agricultural. So from Clearwater County's Municipal Development Plan, a community planning vision is to diversify rural residential development, and a guiding principle is to look at land use compatibility. Hamlet goals are encouraging complementary development within and around hamlets to minimize the use of agricultural land. And it also recognizes Leslieville as a growth hamlet. The Municipal Development Plan addresses wastewater services that the land complies with, and it also outlines implementing the Municipal Development Plan's policies and other affected plans. It outlines what council should be evaluating when redesignating land, such as impacts on neighboring lands, natural capital and the environment, scale and density, site suitability and capacity, roads and other matters the county considers relevant. Clearwater County's land use bylaw, Hamlet Residential District, outlines a general purpose, which is to permit and regulate residential development within the hamlet. There's also a section in our land use bylaw that addresses amending the bylaw process. And although this doesn't directly affect this application because it outlines the 1-year requirement, it was the intent of the policy at the time to revert land back to its original designation if it didn't go through. So for policy considerations, Hamlet Residential is the most suitable designation for the current land due to its proximity to Leslieville, the compatibility with adjacent lands, and the current use of the land being residential. There is not sufficient developable land to proceed with a manufactured home park, nor is that the intent of the applicant. Access to the property will not change, and the proposed use of the land does not meet the intent of the current manufactured home park zoning, and it is better suited under the proposed Hamlet Residential. As required by legislation, today's public hearing was advertised in the local newspapers, and comments were invited from adjacent landowners and agencies. Upon consideration of the representation made at the public hearing, council will consider whether or not to grant second and third reading of this bylaw. I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have. Reeve Lougheed.
Thank you very much. Holly, any questions of the development officer? Councillor Ratcliffe, please.
Thank you, Reeve. How likely is it that the course of Lobstick Creek could change?
I'm not 100% sure on that. Alberta Environment may have more information on that, but it is eroding some of the banks.
Mr. Riaz?
Maybe just to add to that, Councillor, I'm sorry. Maybe just to add to that, Councillor, right now we're undertaking the area structure plan for this particular hamlet, and I'm thinking that more light will be shed on that particular topic once we get that document adopted or presented to council.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Councillor Melhoff, please.
Thank you, Reeve. Historically, with subdivisions, we've taken environmental reserves along such features as this. Because this is a zoning change and not a subdivision, is that why environmental reserve is not being taken on along the creek?
Division, we would take it as a condition generally. This is just to revert the land back to its current designation, so we wouldn't
need it. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
Additional questions? Seeing none, were there any comments received from referral agencies?
Few comments. TELUS had no objections. Our Public Works Department had no objections or concerns. And it was presented to the Municipal Planning Commission at their meeting on August 24th, where they recommended council favorably consider granting second and third reading.
Thank you very much. I guess at this time I would ask if the applicants would like to speak to their proposal or add any comments at all, or respond to any of the agency comments.
there anything you'd like to add?
I don't think we have anything to add to it. It's, we're just waiting for this to happen and pleased if it does.
Thank you for that. At this time, I would ask if there was any member of the public wishing to speak in favor of the request. Again, any member of the public wishing to speak in favor of the application. And seeing no one, I would ask if there were any written submissions in favor of the request.
There were no written submissions received.
Okay, thank you. I guess now, at this time, I would ask if there was any member of the public wishing to speak in opposition to the application. Again, any member of the public wishing to speak in opposition. Seeing none, I would ask if there were any written submissions in opposition to the request.
Again, there were none received.
Okay, thank you very much. I would just ask if the applicants had any final comments to make.
I did talk to some of the neighbors and they're just wondering what we were up to, and then when we told them, they were fine with that.
Well, thank you very much. With that, I will close the hearing. No motions will be entertained at this time. Thank you. Having said that, we will move along to item 5.3 on the agenda, which is consideration of second and third readings, Bylaw 1124/22, application number 0722 to amend the land use bylaw. And again, I will turn the floor across to Ms. Bealey.
So the purpose of this council item is to redesignate the 4.99 acres from the manufactured home park to Hamlet Residential. The subject land was originally designated to accommodate the manufactured home park that did not proceed. And taking into account the previous approved land use amendment and subdivision applications, there's not sufficient high developable land to continue with the manufactured home park development. The subject land has always been utilized as a single-family residential parcel, and therefore the current use of the land does not meet the current designation. And it's the applicant's hope to redesignate the land back to its original designation, being the Hamlet Residential. And then all supporting information is in the agenda package that we presented for the public hearing. First reading of this bylaw was granted by council at their regular meeting on July 26th. And taking into account the consideration of that representation, staff are recommending council grant second and third reading.
Okay, thank you for that. Again, that consideration is for second and third readings. Any additional questions, comments, or motions? I'll go to Councillor Melhoff first.
Thank you, Reeve. I truly think that this just makes sense. And I would be willing to make the motion for second reading.
Thank you. Councillor Swanson?
Just want to make a comment of thank you very much for the history of how this property came to be and how it came to be zoned and rezoned and all the changes over the years. It's historical. So for me, I will be agreeing with the second reading as presented.
Councillor Ratcliffe?
Thank you, Reeve. Yes, this parcel, the elevations are so different that the really usable part is left less than half the size. And this only makes sense to me, so I'm in support.
Okay, additional questions, comments? If not, the motion before us is for second reading. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Again, anybody willing to motion for third reading? Councillor Graham. So motioned?
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor of third reading? And that is carried. Thank you very much. That takes care of that item. And thank you for joining us today. Moving down the agenda, I think we will move on to the Clearwater County Operating Report. And I we'll look to either Mr. Hagan, I believe, or Mr. Emmons. Mr. Hagan, please.
Thank you, Reeve Lougheed. So the report to the end of July of 2022. This is the monthly operating report that's provided for council's information. This normally would have been provided at the last meeting, but due to vacations and so forth, it was delayed until this meeting. Just as a reminder, we haven't prepared a variance analysis on this. This is the regular monthly report intended to keep council up to date on operating results. And we intend to bring a quarterly report for the 9 months ended September 30th to your second meeting in October with variance analysis provided at that time.
Any questions for Mr. Hagan? Councillor Cermak, your light's on, but that may be the ghost.
No, I got it.
Okay.
I just would like to know, utility gravel and maintenance. That's 653.49% over. What took place? 30/20.
And that's in the revenue section that you're looking at.
Yes.
There. Yeah, I will inquire with finance on that, and we will send an email out to council with an explanation of that.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? Councillor Ratcliffe, please.
Thank you. Just following on with Councillor Cermak's question, if that is a one-time event, or we expect that to continue with those revenues?
Yeah, we'll include that in our explanation.
Thank you.
Additional comments, questions? If not, I'd be looking for a motion to accept this report for information. Councillor Swanson, further discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Councillor reports, 6.3. I'm not going to shake it up this time. We will go numerically and start with Division 1.
Thank you, Reeve. I sent mine out to you this morning, so hopefully you'll have a chance to read it at some point. We had MPC in August, and I always really enjoy MPC. It gives us a chance to go out and really see how development is shaping our municipality and literally get a boots on the ground feel, because we get to do tours and go and see a lot of the development permits that are coming forward. We also did that virtual town hall with the shadow ministers. That wasn't quite what I expected, because it was presented as a broadband town hall, and it ended up coming up with 10 key points that they are hoping to be able to achieve if this particular group was to form government. And it was interesting to be able to see the entire country, because there was people from every province on it, and we all kind of have the same concerns. So I found that very, very, in some ways refreshing, in some ways we all have the same concerns and they aren't fully being utilized or being looked at. So hopefully the 10 points that came out of that will actually be looked at and we can actually make some progress. We had a health settlement subcommittee meeting. The PCN is still struggling here locally because they get their funding based on how many patients are seen by the physicians in our community, not by how many patients the PCN sees. I find that extremely interesting because the PCN sees patients that don't even have family physicians. So I thought that was, that needs to be looked at. And if that's a PCN problem across the entire province, which I'm told that it is, perhaps that's something we need to look at discussing with the province on how they are divvying out funding. The Rocky Health Foundation is working on a video campaign that we are hoping to be able to piggyback onto with the health committee so that we can work as a team. The Chamber's offered us a membership mixture spot as well, so hopefully we can get more information out to the community utilizing those. The Health Foundation is launching their Smile Cookie campaign, and that the income from that will be going to the Healthy Hospital Foundation, or Healthy Hospital Committee of the Health Foundation, local health foundation. They're looking for any of us to come and help with that if we have the opportunity. We are looking at adding pharmacy potentially to our goals of attraction and retention, as pharmacists are now being seen as lacking within our community. In fact, the Sunchild Pharmacy is at risk of shutting down due to not having a pharmacist. So, and Rocky has some similar concerns. So we are looking at that. I also had a meeting with the Sundry Health Spark. They're complement to our health team, and we're going to be working on some collaborative efforts for our entire western border to see if we can have a stronger voice if we work together than if we stay as separate groups. And just as a quick note, the Leslieville Block Party, what a blast. Like, that group did amazing setting that up, and I was lucky enough to get to judge the pie and preserve and pickle contest, and that was, it was great. They did a fabulous job, and thank you to all of those volunteers. And we continue with drop in with a counselor. I had mine on Friday, and I was able to reach out to a few people via phone that had wanted some phone conversations, and I had one person come in and drop in person. So I'm hoping that will get more traction as we get further along and people are more aware that we are doing those things. So thank you so much, and hopefully everybody else had a great start to their school year.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Melhoff? Well, again, thank you, and we'll go to Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Eve Lougheed. So I attended the Clearwater Community Crime Watch meeting. It's kind of the same stuff going on there. They're struggling to stay afloat. They kind of looked at amalgamation, and that's not going to work with other places, and they may be approaching us in the future with a question about RMA, so we'll see if that happens. I also was on the rural economic development and broadband strategy virtual meeting thing. That was, I agree with everything Councillor Melhoff said. It's interesting. We're all kind of struggling with the same things. The RCMP Town Hall in Leslieville, I attended that. A few things coming out of that is potentially next year we could be receiving another RPAC team out here. So that's really good news. That program's been successful, and that's really great to hear that we could be receiving that. And something that was really nice to hear from our seats was that Sergeant Dinsdale was speaking very highly of how well equipped our fire service is. So that's a good kudos to the county and the great work that they do. And something too that I thought was kind of relevant to our resolution surrounding backcountry fees that Sergeant Dinsdale touched on is the extra workload that they have to take on in the summer as well. And, you know, I don't want to say that we're underserved when we're not like further out west, but they do have to spread out more. And I don't know if that's something that we want to consider when we're presenting that. I attended virtually the industry crime meeting, and they still have wires being pulled, and they have done a couple of things that are sort of bringing the crime rate down with cameras and putting metal up on poles and stuff to kind of make people have to work a little more for their thievery, and that seems to be helping a little bit. Though I would concur the Leslieville Block Party was amazing. It was really cool. My niece was there, so she wanted to go on numerous wagon rides, of course, because she loves her horses. And the first ride, I got to go with the dancers that were there. They happened to be on our wagon, so it was kind of cool to hear. They kind of taught me a few things, and that was really neat. And then the second time, I was speaking with the lady that, you know, there's not many places now that you can shut down an entire block for a day, and you can just tour around the whole town on wagons, and the cars just, you know, people just have common sense and know to get out of your way. And it was just really cool, and it was a really kudos to the organizers. They did a phenomenal job, and it was a really awesome, good community day. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Questions for Councillor Graham? Well, again, thank you, and I'll go to Deputy Reeve Northcott.
To be honest, I actually really don't have a lot to report at this time. I've been just busy myself with harvest. So I just hope all the residents and stuff like that get to continue with a safe harvest for the rest of the year here and stuff like that. So that's really all I have to say. Thanks.
Super, thank you very much. And Councillor Ratcliffe, please.
Thank you. I was able to attend a part of the Nordic Days. They have moved it this year from the August long weekend to the September long weekend. The organizers were very pleased with the turnout, and I certainly enjoyed listening there to the music in the evening. So that was another successful one. I also dropped in for part of the aerobatics competition at the airport. It was good to see so many aircraft and so many pilots participating in this competition. And that sets the team that will go to the international competition in Las Vegas next October. We also continued the ICC, the town, the county, and the village, continued with drafting the regional vision statement. That's expected to be presented to council at the next meeting. I also sat in on the ARC, that's the Alberta Rural Communications Coalition, is getting going again this fall for work on rural broadband or advocating for rural broadband. And as Councillor Graham mentioned, I also attended that Crime Watch meeting. These people are trying to find a new business plan, I guess is the best description, to be able to support the community as it changes, as you know, there's more virtual and technology involved in the community, and that is changing how Crime Watch needs to respond to people. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Questions for Councillor Ratcliffe? Well, again, thank you, and I'll go to Councillor Cermak, please.
Okay, thank you, Rave. On September 7th, 8th, and 9th, Councillor Swanson and myself attended the care session in Leduc. It was all to do with waste and everything, and I was quite surprised to find out that there is many areas of waste. There's a lot of pieces to this big puzzle of waste that we're dealing with. Just example, tires, oil, batteries, compost, plastics, metals, wood, biomedical. That was one that shocked me, biomedical. It's not considered, it is considered a waste if it's just a piece of cloth covered in blood. That goes into general waste. If you can push on the cloth, then there's blood that comes up. Then that has to go to Swan Hills to be incinerated. It was fairly intense, I thought. And then I got into the ARMA. Their take on it all in the waste is, they say it is not a waste, and we shouldn't call it a waste, but it's a resource. It's a fairly costly resource, but it is a resource, I guess. And then the AEP, there's new regulations coming on waste, arriving by the year end or early in 2023. And the way that they talked, it's going to take up to about 28 months to get it all integrated and to get everybody on board. Now, this is just my opinion of reading in between the lines, because this person that was speaking, I think he had his tongue tied by the Alberta government that he couldn't say a whole lot until the regulations come out. But it looks like the producers may have to take care of their products that they produce from cradle to grave. That's just my opinion on how I read it. And he would not say what's coming down the pipe until these regulations are released. So I just found it kind of an oxymoron. They want to tell us about it, but they can't. Yeah. And I guess the other thing that I wanted to make aware of, the Truth and Reconciliation Walk on September 30th that starts down and then it goes to the Curtis. If you get a chance, please come to it. I went to the last walk. I think I was the only councillor that did. You get a whole different perspective on the native thinking and all of that. I found that really great, and I'm going to come to this other one. I thought it was fantastic. And other than those two things, the last month I was like Deputy Reeve from Northcott. I was helping neighbors with getting their cattle feed in and harvesting and stuff. And now my wife has me doing a whole new flooring in the house. And, and that's the end of it. Thanks.
Super. Questions for Councillor Cermak? Well, again, thank you for that report. And Councillor Swanson, please.
Very good. A lot of what I attended as well. So RMA, the virtual town hall, and I have to agree that the rural problems across Canada are not unique. We all share a common set of that. So that was very good to have that explanation. And I think the 10 points that were presented were emailed to us. And I think that's something that we should be highlighting, or at least having that conversation at our RMA conference. I did the drop-in with the councillor on September 1st, and so I did have one drop-in, and that was great. I was not anticipating anyone because it was just one of those things that we've just started. Did have a few conversations on the side with other people that morning, but anyways, I think it'll catch on, and I think it'll give our residents an opportunity, like Councillor Melhoff said, is you can either call in or drop in, so I think that's awesome. I also attended the airport for that opening ceremony for the aerobatics. I expected it to be noisier, but it wasn't, and it was very pleasant to hear about their patterns and how they're judged and everything else. So I will take more personal involvement in regards to learning that as going forward. I did drop into the Nordic Days on the Sunday night for the community supper, very well attended. Managed to talk a few minutes with Minister MLA Nixon that night, so just he was on his rounds doing to other events that weekend because it was a long weekend. The Rocky Rec Board had a meeting on last Wednesday, of which I attended virtually. Just in regards to, they were setting up for their service level review with the town council here at the end of the month, the end of the month. And so going forward, I really couldn't hear what was going on. There was a big update about the bike park pump track from one of the members at large. So I'm hoping to get a written one, a submission of her update here right shortly, and I'll share it with the rest of council. And I have to agree with Councillor Cermak. The CARE conference last week was really good. What was interesting to me was that the City of Leduc and County of Leduc are now baling some of their waste and burying it for a future possible waste to energy project. So that was very interesting to learn. One of the sessions that I was more interested in was called Composting Organic Resource Management. There's a altroot, altroot.ca. He has a partnership with the Westlock Waste Commission, and where he takes all the compostable products from the landfill site, and he does it on his farm, and there's a farmer that takes it all, and they're doing a study and a research study, and when it will be published and posted on that website, hopefully by Christmas. And the interesting thing was when you applied compost, there was the question, do you apply it on a black field or do you apply it on living roots? And the living roots meaning a pasture or a crop that's already grown, and he said you should apply it to the living roots because then your compost material and the biome in it is readily available for the plants immediately. Whereas if you put it on a black field, the compost still, the plant can't take it up because the plant is still putting its own roots down and can't get at the compost as quickly. And so anyways, I thought, that's a very interesting take, and I will watch out for that in the future. The waste energy, there's between 500 and 100 in North America. It is not the silver bullet. If anything, they told us that it is a part of a waste recovery system. So recovering energy is good, recycling is better, reduction is best. Swan Hills takes the is the only provincial place that where things are being incinerated, and that is scheduled to be shut down in 2025. What I enjoyed most about that particular conference was being able to network with the participants in the solid waste area. Councillor Cermak and I did do a North Saskatchewan river tour with an accessible boat where the side of his boat came down and anybody in a wheelchair or had accessibilities could get on this and do a river cruise. And it was just wonderful to see that particular tourism that was available for people. And that was an enjoyable, where we were an hour on the water. So yeah, it was all good. And other than that, yes, it is harvest time. It is garden harvest time. And anybody wants some zucchini, call me. But other than that, lock your doors. Exactly. And yeah, let's hope the weather holds for a little while longer and our residents can get what they need to get done. Thanks.
Super. Questions for Councillor Swanson? Councillor Melhoff?
Thank you. One, thank you for my last round of zucchini, and I'm ready for more whenever, whenever you're willing to share. You said the Swan Hills is closing down in 2025. What is the plan? Because bio-waste isn't leaving ever, so they will still need to have some type of incineration facility.
As Councillor Cermak alluded to, they couldn't tell us what they couldn't tell us, wanted to tell us. And so I would say as AP comes forward, we will hear more about that in the next coming year. There is an autoclave in the Balzac region, but that is not for incinerating. And so that's depending on the level, right, of coding that happens. But yes, I agree that there is a plan in the works, but they just cannot allow that information. They're waiting actually for the leadership review to be called, and then once that, we will hear more.
Can I have follow-up?
Yeah. Please.
Well, thank you. With regards to the rec committee, we have a member-at-large slot open. Are we going to be waiting until October to refill that slot, or are we going to fill it ahead of time?
I would suggest that we wait till the organizational meeting, because at that particular point, there's just, and that person would be fill in for the 2 years remaining.
On that slot?
On that slot, yeah.
I have one more if you don't.
Please.
So I'm hopeful that we can potentially do a rec budget presentation similar to what fire does for the ICC. I'm curious, that might be a question for actually Chief Emmons, if we can reach out to the town and have a budget presentation similar to what fire does, given to us, so we have an idea of what the operational and capital budgets actually look like for rec. Hopeful that that can happen.
Yes, Mr. Emmons?
Thank you, Bylaw. Thank you for the question, Councillor Melhoff. Already distributed that ask throughout the appropriate departments, and we're reaching out to the town to explore that possibility.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Councillor Cermak?
Mine isn't really a question for Councillor Swanson, but if you're gonna go to the aerobatics, don't go Sunday. I went Sunday, one plane flew, done a couple loops, and then they came down and told us that it was all over. That was at noon. And it said it went until 5.
Oh,
If I would have known that, I would have told my farmers that I wasn't gonna make it, I was gonna go to the yearling show. But I had Sunday all planned out to go. And I got to see one plane.
Next year, because hopefully they'll be back.
yeah.
I hope so, because it was very enjoyable, the plane that I seen. And there was quite a few of our cars that came about the same time I did. And they all left with long faces. Sorry, thanks.
Thank you for that. And thank you, Councillor Swanson. I guess just for myself, I guess I would echo a lot of the comments I've heard all the way around. It's such a busy community right now, and there's so many great events out there. The block party at Leslieville, the Nordig Association. We've had such great community endorsement of these activities. It's great to see. Also, Councillor Swanson's comments around compost. I'm right in the middle of compost around my farm, several hundred tons of that going out. So I'll have to try a little bit directly on green ground too. So that's very interesting. I would like to mention that the Charlotte Small Elementary School in Condor is open and receiving students. I've had the great pleasure to be able to have a short tour of that facility, and it is marvelous. I think it's so good that we have those foundation anchor points within our communities. It really bodes for a positive future. And just to mention too, I believe there is an open house of that facility tonight from 4 to 6 p.m. And you can also probably, if you drive through Condor, you can probably see all sorts of that great public works activity that's happening around Condor. Condor's in a state of flux at the moment, but I think good things are coming there as well. So lots of activity happening for sure. And I'd also like to just echo some of the comments around the virtual town hall with the critics or the shadow cabinet of our MPs. Definitely, I think there is work to be done around the definition of rural. There's so many different concepts of what rural means, and I think having that focus on what is truly rural is important as well. So that's probably it from me right now. I know there's some good things coming. ICC was working very hard on a regional vision and lots of willingness there to work and get that right, get the right comments, get the right phrasing around that vision. So that'll be being shared very soon, I believe, for next steps there with our councils as well. So look forward to that. At this time, I guess I'd be looking for a motion to accept councillor reports for information. Councillor Ratcliffe was first that I saw. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Just bear with me as I find our agenda here. Correspondence. We have a number of items of correspondence. Would there be anything that administration or council would like to highlight within that, as well as there is item 7.4, which I believe has an opportunity for a decision with that as well. So questions, comments? Item 7.4 then, more specifically, I believe there is a request within that correspondence as well. Mr. Emmons or Tracy, would anybody like to kind of highlight what's there or if council has no questions, I would entertain a motion as towards that request. Mr. Emmons?
Thank you, Bylaw. So this addition to the agenda is a public member at large request to attend the Rural Community Health Provider Attraction and Retention Conference. The staff recommendation before council. The council considers authorizing Karen Malhoff, Rocky Mountain House, Clearwater County Health Professionals Engagement Team, public member at large, attendance at the Rural Community Health Provider Attraction and Retention 2022 conference. So the background for council's consideration attached is.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Karen Malhoff is my mother-in-law. Do I stay as part of this discussion or do I need to recuse? Sorry for the interruption.
That would be entirely up to you. I don't think the Municipal Government Act requires you with a mother-in-law.
That's what I'm trying to determine, because
To-
it doesn't, but
That would be totally your comfort level.
yes?
Respectfully, Councilor Malahoff, family member receiving remuneration, I would,
Perfect, then I will recuse myself. Thank you.
thank you, Councilor Malahoff. So, attached is a request from Karen Malahoff, a council-appointed member at large, to the Rocky Mountain House Clearwater County Health Professionals Engagement Team to attend the Rural Community Health Provider Attraction and Retention 2022 Conference taking place October 4th to 6th. Public member remuneration and expenses to be paid as per council's attached policies. The estimated costs are shown for council's consideration, totaling $2,124.63. Council authorization for the councillor registered for this conference is not required, as the conference is applicable to the councillor's appointment to the engagement team made at the 2021 organizational meeting. But council authorization for the member at large would be required. Did council have any questions in regards to this agenda?
Councillor Swanson.
I believe that the Rocky Mountain House Health Professionals Engagement Team is now like a subcommittee under the Rocky Chambers, correct? That went last year, I believe, that change came in.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that.
They were.
Definitely there's involvement with the chamber for sure. I think as the umbrella of that organization, as opposed to it being specific to either or municipal entities.
Yes, and my understanding then that was because it went underneath the chamber, it brought on other efficiencies for their society, their banking, et cetera, insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So I know myself, as far as past conferences, because conferences are not mandatory for any of us or any member at large, that anytime, for example, if it was FCSS, the seniors board, or Rocky Rec board, that those particular entities would cover the conference registration and accommodations, but never the remuneration or the travel. That was part of their, because most of our members at large receive an honorarium in that regards. So I'm happy she wants to go to this. This is great. I think it's great for that particular health engagement team. But I would like to pose to the Rocky Chamber that they cover her accommodations and registration, because that's like any other committee that we are on. That's what happens. I've never seen a member at large be remunerated for going to a conference, because it's usually they get the accommodations covered and the registration costs. Only an elected official was covered under remuneration for a conference, because we're bringing it back for the whole of the county per se, as far as information. So that's just my understanding. So I would, before we made a motion, and I know the next meeting might be too close, you know, for her, if registration's closed, I guess. But I guess that's where I said is ask the particular engagement team under the Rocky Chamber. To me, the Rocky Chamber should be covering her registration and accommodations, because it falls under that umbrella. It doesn't fall under our county umbrella. So anyways, that would be my suggestion as we confer with the Rocky Chamber first.
I guess a question I might have, do we have a budget line for that particular organization? Is there a budget line, and would this be fitting within any of those constrictions of budget?
There would not have been any amounts budgeted for remuneration or travel and subsistence for this specifically.
Right. And if I recall, it had, that particular group had a overall budget line assigned to it fairly consistently over the last number of years, and this would be a substantial part of that budget line, I would believe.
What's budgeted is registrations for members at large and for their annual payment that they get for sitting on the board, the honoraria, yeah.
If I remember correctly, that one is a remuneration based on a per diem rate as opposed to a, but I guess maybe I would not know that for the public members, but just trying to recall back. Mr. Emmons or?
Tracy is just letting me know. Board is remunerated for their attendance. They aren't paid by honoraria.
So that's why it would be outside of that typical annual type honorarium. It is a per diem type.
For each meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions? Councillor Ratcliffe, please.
Dave, do we already have a counselor registered for this conference? So we're already sending someone? Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Graham, please.
Thank you, Reeve Wahid. I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So for other boards, when they go to conferences, the members at large are not remunerated? Is that correct?
Mr. Emmons, I do believe that there's a number of different boards that we do support conferences on, so
Okay.
this is not, I think there's a path forward here, but we just have to make sure we follow precedents perhaps.
Thank you, Bylaw. And yes, there is, council does have their remuneration policy. That's way too far away for me to read. And remuneration does fall under that policy. So if a board is eligible, depending on the structure of that board, whether it's honorarium or remuneration, this does fall within that.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions, concerns, comments, motions? Councillor Swanson.
So learning that this particular committee is on a remuneration for members at large versus a honorarium, I would like to know which, when we are in the committee selection for the organizational meeting, to maybe make note of that, what is an honorarium and what is on a per diem basis on those committee levels. But anyways, but knowing that particular information, I guess I'll make a motion to honor the request.
Okay. Additional questions, comments around that motion? Councillor Cermak.
Does Karen Mulhoff, does she come back and give us a report when she's finished, or just a written one?
Mr. Emmons?
That could be a request from Councillor Cermak. I would respectfully suggest, as council has a rep going forward, you should receive that anyway.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Swanson, please.
Do we need to establish where those funds are coming from, which, just to clarify?
The rest of the remuneration for any public member at large comes through council's budget, there is a line item for that.
Okay. Any additional questions relating to the motion? If not, I call the question. All those in favor? And those opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. That takes us to item, I guess we probably should make a motion to accept correspondence for information. I think we can welcome Councillor Melhoff back into the fold. Well, this could be a chance to blow the entire budget on red or something. Thank you. We're just entertaining a motion now, or would be calling for a motion to accept correspondence for information to end item 7. Councillor Swanson, please. You would make, so moved? Okay. Okay, further discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Any notices of motion? Seeing none, I think that moves us to item number 9, which is a closed session. So we will need a motion to move into closed session. Councillor Melhoff, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Do we need to take a break? Welcome back. We're returning from closed session, and I believe we may have a motion coming out of closed session. I would look to Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Reeve Lougheed. I would like to make a motion that council approves the reallocation of $300,000 from contingency to Public Works Operations 2022 capital budget for a legal matter.
Thank you. Additional discussion? Councillor Melhoff.
Thank you, Reeve. Just that in future, if we can get an update of where our contingency is sitting, so that we're just aware of how we are for the rest of the year, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions? If not, I call the motion. All those in favor? And that is carried. That finishes item 9. We are down to now item 10 on the agenda, which is adjournment. Would anybody be willing to make that motion? Deputy Reeve Northcott, all those in favor. Thank you for joining us today.